This video is brought to you by Magellan TV, a new documentary streaming service founded by filmmakers whose mission is to tell great stories that have defined the human experience.
All right, watch the door.
Okay.
You got it?
Yep.
All right, let's put it down, and then if you want to...
Go up.
Yeah, bring your side up. Okay, and then on the carpet.
Okay. Good.
This is a project.
Yup.
So in the past, what now, 2 months that you've been my assistant here, Kit, I don't think you've seen something of this scale, or maybe even with this much damage.
No. No, this is definitely the first, at least this big. You had another one with the seam down the middle, but that was much smaller. This is huge.
Yeah. This is why we get into conservation. This is why you're here, to learn about this process and to participate in it and kind of, earn your chops, I guess. There's a massive tear that kind of runs. This is almost half of the painting.
Oh wow.
And then there's another tear over there, another tear over here and there.
And this is a seam?
This is a seam, yeah, look at this. Like, you can see where they stitched the two pieces together. My guess is that this is probably 1 meter, which is the size of a European loom. And if you wanted something bigger, you had to add a piece of canvas. And so the stitching is right down that side.
It's not even straight.
No, it's not. And that's going to be a problem. We'll have to figure out some way of dealing with that.
Where do we start? I've never done anything this intense before. What do we do?
Well, the first thing we have to do is understand what we're going to try to do. And that began with consulting the client. They have pretty strong reason to believe that this is a painting by the artist Murillo. And they're working on authenticating and researching all of that. But what stands in their way is its condition. None of the experts will look at the painting in this state. So it needs to be conserved. And we're going to kind of have to do everything. It needs to be clean. That's patently obvious. The lining needs to come off. The old adhesive needs to come off. Tons of structural repairs where the tears were. All the old overpainting needs to come off.
When we're taking off the old in painting, the overpainting, do we worry about what's underneath? Like, is that a can of worms that we really want to be opening up?
Oh, you mean, what if there's nothing left underneath?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's always an issue that you face when you have a painting that's been extensively reworked. What of the original is left? Unfortunately, we don't really have the choice of leaving this old work because it's just so bad. Sometimes, if the retouching is good, you can leave it. And you can say, this was great, I don't want to undo this for fear of what lies beneath, but in this case, this has to go. So even if we find that there is nothing underneath, we can do better than this. And we owe it to the client and to the painting to respect it and honor it in a way that it deserves, and this is just not going to cut it. I know it may seem like trial by fire, but these projects come along and you've got to get your hands in them at some point. So I figure, why wait?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely really excited about it, really intimidated at the same time, but I mean, we've been working on the pieces of this, so I feel confident about it, but I am happy that we're going to be working on this together.
No, it's all you. You got a week, needs to be done. No, but the point about working on the pieces really is accurate. This project, even though not only in its scale, but in the work that needs to be done, is expansive and comprehensive. But if we break it down into smaller steps, they're repeatable, they're things that you, even in the time before coming to my studio and the time here, have done before. So it's about taking something that seems overwhelming and finding a way to approach it in more manageable pieces.
I'll let you deal with the seam, and we can flip a coin for the retouching.
Okay, who's going to do the scraping of the glue?
I think
it's not me.
Yeah, I think I have to do that.
It's a rite of passage, Kit.
Yeah.
All right, well, talk is cheap, Kit. Let's get to work.
Oh gosh.
All right, we're going to go face up on this table.
All right.
Yep.
Good. You got your side on?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Look at this, Kit.
Oh no.
First surprise, it's nailed directly through the canvas to the support.
But just right there. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Okay.
I have a feeling this painting is going to keep us on our toes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey, glad to see you're still here. Say, I have a question for you. How many of you folks out there love watching my videos because you're really passionate about art and it just touches you viscerally? Okay, and how many of you watch because it gives you all the feels and, well, let's be honest, kind of helps you fall asleep? Okay, yeah. All right, now, how about a show of hands of those people that really just love watching something transform and seeing what one person with two hands can do? Let me see your hands. Yeah, you too. All right, here's the last one. How many of you love watching these videos because they're the closest thing you can get to a contemporary version of another series where a very soft-spoken man using his two hands, transformed a blank canvas into something that was viscerally impactful, that also helped you fall asleep? Yeah, I thought so.
Yep, you know who I'm talking about. And on Magellan TV, you can watch Bob Ross, the Happy Painter, and learn all about his humble beginnings and his journey to becoming a worldwide popular culture icon. And that's not all. Magellan TV has thousands of documentaries, all ad and interruption free, all in 4K, and they're adding more weekly. So whether it's history, science, travel, adventure, historical drama, or art and culture, there's something for you. And Magellan TV's entire catalog is available to you wherever you go, from your TV, desktop, laptop, tablet, or even phone. And after watching a documentary you love, you can get more out of Magellan TV by reading articles to add depth to the documentary viewing experience. Head over to try.magellantv.com/Baumgartner Restoration for a free 1-month trial where you can watch Bob Ross, the Happy Painter, and more. Before any work can begin in earnest on this painting, we've got to first address these little tacks that were driven through the face of the painting into the stretcher. There is no universe in which this is considered okay or good work, and really you can see that it hasn't achieved anything other than creating a problem that needs to be solved. My guess is that the lining was coming loose, and this was the attempted fix, to simply drive some nails through the painting to the support and hold everything in place. But clearly it was not successful, and these tacks have now caused other damage. I removed them using my tack puller and a little piece of cotton blotter paper to protect the painting from the pressure and friction of that tack puller. I didn't want to cause any more damage. Now, once those were removed, I can start removing the frame. And Kit and I are going through and removing 10,142.5 slotted screws from the side of this frame. And slotted screws are kind of a royal pain. I understand that they have a utility, particularly in woodworking, but for my money, I would take any other fastener other than slotted screws. You can see just how difficult it is to remove one, let alone 1,000. This frame is going to be thrown away. The owners don't want it, so I don't have to worry about protecting it or keeping it sound. But there are a lot of tacks to remove, and the tacking edge is pretty brittle. But we'll get to that in a minute. But before removing any of those tacks or the painting from the stretcher support, I'm going to face it using washi kozo and fish gelatin. And sitting here waiting for this fish gelatin to boil, Kit and I were wondering what exactly it tastes like. So, I tasted it. This is food-grade fish gelatin, and frankly, it tastes like nothing. Like regular old gelatin. Not fishy, not gross in any way, shape, or form. So, there you have it. Now you know what fish gelatin tastes like. Into hot water the fish gelatin goes, and it melts almost instantly. This creates a glue based out of the fish gelatin, all of the collagen and connective tissue and proteins that are in that fish gelatin that will bond the washi-kozo to the face of the painting. You can see just how effective hot water is at dissolving this. And this is used in kitchens all over the world for, well, I actually don't know what, but it is food grade, so it is okay to eat, which means that it's certainly okay to use on the face of a painting. Having Kit here with me to face this painting is really helpful because it is really big. I certainly could do it by myself, and I have in the past, but there is a lot of square footage to cover, and having 2 sets of hands just makes it go faster. It's also helpful because then the washi-kozo will all dry at the same rate, rather than one part of the canvas drying before the other. And that's not terribly consequential, but if we can control variables, we'd like to. This painting is going to consume quite a bit of washi-kozo, and because of the size and the handling and the seam and all of the tears, I've chosen to use a heavier weight washi-kozo than I normally use. I have several at my disposal, and this heavier weight one will provide extra support and durability throughout the process of handling the painting, removing the lining, and various other treatments. Even with Kit's help, it still does take quite a bit of time to get all of the facing onto the canvas and all of the fish gelatin evenly distributed. And then, as it dries, we say goodbye to the painting. With the facing all dried, I can now finally begin removing these tacks from the painting. Some of them slide right out, some of them are rusted in, some of the heads just break right off, and some fight me all the way. But ultimately, everyone has to come out. It's not terribly difficult work, and having the right tools makes a big difference, but it is tedious and time-consuming. In the past, where there is no tacking edge, it is possible to simply cut the canvas off. But here, because we want to save this tacking edge, we're not cutting it off. That would be irresponsible and just totally unacceptable for any conservator.
All right, let's get this clipped onto the stretcher.
Okay.
So that we can transport it. Much easier to use the stretcher to our advantage than try to move this big floppy canvas around. Mm-hmm. And we'll put the blotter papers on there just to protect the painting a little bit. Obviously the washi will protect the face of the painting, but it doesn't hurt to have just a little bit of padding so that the clips don't
dent it.
That's right.
Yeah. Got yours okay?
Yep.
Nice.
So then we'll go up and we'll walk it over like this until the last minute, and then we'll flip it around.
Okay.
All right, set it down on the table and then get ready to flip it. So get your other hand kind of under you in an awkward position.
Yep.
And then we can go in one smooth motion. Look at that. And so the reason we moved it from that table to this table is this is where it's going to live for the next couple of weeks as we remove the canvas. And this table is off to the side. I want to keep this table free and clear. So it is in its new home. And the first thing we have to do is get this stretcher off. I think we got all of the tacks, but just go along and make sure that there are no errant ones that we missed, like that one.
Can I use that after you?
Found another?
Yes.
Yep. There we go.
Nice.
Oh, what is this?
Something
Stretcher.
Route 1.
Roll-on box. I'm 100% confident that this stretcher is not original to the painting.
Okay.
This is an American-made stretcher, clearly, and this is a European painting.
Are we going to preserve this for provenance?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take it off. We'll probably mount it onto something and then transfer it to the other side so that it can be seen by everybody. We're probably the first people to see this since the stretcher was made, and it would be nice for the owners and researchers to be able to see this and use this as a piece of evidence or provenance. So yeah, a nice surprise. I hope that we find more nice surprises, but I've been doing this long enough to know that it's probably not the case. So even though this canvas is going, it still makes sense to remove some of this accumulated grime. This is just stuff that gets trapped in between the stretcher and the canvas, not because we're trying to clean this canvas, really. This canvas is going to be completely discarded. There's no value in it, but having a clean work environment is always appreciated.
So what's next?
So now we got to start exploring how to get this canvas off.
Okay.
Initially, when I took a look at the painting when it first came in, I think it's a protein-based glue, a rabbit skin glue. I don't think it's a fish-based glue, maybe a hide glue. And it's old enough that we can start to see there are plenty of bubbles where it's not even attached anymore.
Right.
So the deterioration and failure of the old glue is hopefully going to work in our favor, and that this canvas will come off easy. The first step is just to isolate a corner and start to very delicately peel it back. At this stage, if I can get the canvas off without having to soften the adhesive, it's really beneficial because we don't reactivate the adhesive, so it doesn't sink further into the original canvas. It doesn't rebond the lining canvas to the original canvas, and it's also less messy, you know, and there's a lot of glue here.
Where your hand is right now, is this the glue coming off on the lining?
Yeah, so you can see that the layer of glue is pretty thick, and in some places it's stuck to the canvas, and in some places it's stuck to the lining canvas. Okay. This is not a very effective glue lining. This canvas wasn't saturated enough, and neither was this. And so there just isn't enough glue there to create a really good bond.
Was that a spot where they filled it in?
This all right here is a little hole, but instead of doing an inlay with canvas, they just filled it in with paint. And my guess is that on the front you can see a little divot. This is not how you repair a hole in canvas. You don't just smear it full of paint.
Oh, yeah, you can see it's there right there.
Yeah, well, there's gonna be a lot of those.
Yeah.
It seems like this is coming off well enough without needing the tools, but as you can see, as I remove more of it, it's getting harder for me to control the flexing of the canvas. So this is where having an extra set of hands is going to be really helpful. Awesome. So as I'm pulling it back, I want you to keep one or two hands on the canvas as close to
your seam as you can.
Yeah, as close to the edge, and you can also help pull it back to encourage it, and kind of working in unison. And I'm trying to keep a triangle here because it's easier to remove it in a section like that than trying to pull the whole thing off in one fell swoop.
So, I mean, we're about halfway done. How do you think this compares to other linings that you've had to remove?
I mean, this is a pleasure at this point. I'm cautious of even saying that because
we're only halfway.
Yeah, we're only halfway. But you know, sometimes really good glue linings are incredibly difficult to remove. They're really strong, and then you really do have to introduce moisture to them. But this, I mean, this is like the suggestion of the glue lining. It makes me believe that this wasn't done by a professional conservator, that this was done by somebody who had good intentions. But, you know, we know where that road leads.
Yeah.
Now look, there's a little insect in here.
Oh no.
Well, the insect has long given up the ghost. It's just indicative that maybe insects got into this lining canvas. Because this is, rabbit skin glue is basically insect and mouse food. They absolutely love this stuff. And so when it absorbs ambient moisture and it kind of softens back up, mice, little insects, that you will find them eating on this glue.
It seems like they put extra adhesive on this part.
Yeah, of course. As we get to the edge, the end, just be conscious of going slow, because there's going to be a tendency to go really kind of pull it really fast and hard.
Yeah, we're so excited about it.
Well, also, there's just so little left. All right, you want to switch? You want to do the honors?
My first full rabbit skin.
Yeah, go for it.
Yay! I'm scared to ask because I think I know the answer, but how are we going to get the glue off?
Well, Kit, the way you're going to get the glue out, is that what you're afraid of?
Yes.
Well, we got to figure that out. I'm pretty sure it's rabbit skin glue, but we have to figure out how best to remove it. So we're going to make some tests.
Okay. So what are we looking for right now with these reactions?
Well, I'm hoping to soften up the adhesive and make it easier to remove. It's possible to remove it manually dry by just scraping, but I don't think that that's going to be the best solution.
So doing the gel kind of keeps the canvas safe while activating the rabbit skin.
Exactly, right. If we get this wet, the canvas is going to swell, then it's going to shrink when it dries, and that movement is going to cause the paint to crack, flake, distort. That's exactly what we don't want. So the gel is really critical because it allows us to expose the glue to moisture, but in a way that doesn't expose the canvas to as much moisture and is much more controlled. Also, when it comes off, it's in these nice kind of little flakes as opposed to a slimy puddle of reactivated glue, which then gets all over the canvas and sinks back into the canvas. Well, I think that went pretty well. Canvas came off really well, but we have a lot of square footage ahead of us. So to roll up our sleeves and get into it.
Hopefully the rest of it's as easy as pulling the lining off.
Oh, your mouth to heaven's ears.
Once we've settled on an approach, we now have to put it into action. And there is a lot of glue to remove. Even with Kit's help, this is going to take several days. First, the solution must be painted onto the area of glue we want to remove and allowed to swell the glue. And this is going to take about, 15 to 25 minutes for this painting. Now, it's not necessarily always the best approach to use moisture, and in some cases, we can actually scrape off the glue dry. I'm taking a new scalpel blade and dulling it just a little bit on a whetstone, and testing just to see if I can get away with removing some of this adhesive dry. And in some spots, it comes off fairly well, particularly where it's really thick. But in other areas where it's really thin, it's just not going to be feasible. So I do have to use the wet approach. After enough time, I can come back with the scalpel and begin scraping off that swollen rabbit skin glue. With enough time, the rabbit skin glue swells to the point where it's almost sitting on the top of the canvas, and some quick motions with the blade that I previously dulled gets rid of all of that adhesive without taking any of the canvas with it. And that's a key point. We're not trying to shave down the canvas, we're just trying to scrape off the glue. In some spots, there is so much glue that 2 or 3 passes might be necessary. And that slows down the process quite a bit, but ultimately there's no quicker way to do it. This is time tested, it works, and so even if it takes a long time, well, those are the breaks, and we just have to accept it. As I work to scrape off this glue, I'm relying on many senses. Of course, my sense of touch, and feeling the resistance of the glue when my blade comes into contact with it. I also want to make sure that the blade isn't grabbing onto the canvas. That would be a jittery feeling and would damage the canvas. I'm also using my eyes. I'm looking to see what's happening, gathering all sorts of information, including how reflective the surface is, because the more reflective means that there is still adhesive on it. I'm listening to the sound of scraping. It definitely has a different sound when I'm pulling off glue and when I've reached the canvas and at various points. And finally, I'm trusting muscle memory, relying on thousands of hours of scraping to guide me through this process, which allows me to move fairly quickly. In fact, really quickly. So quickly that Kit was astonished how much I was completing compared to how much she was completing. But, of course, Kit is at the beginning of her journey, and she will too, in time, develop all of these skills to move this quickly. Ultimately, however, precision is more important than speed, and she has that precision, which is precisely why she's here working in the studio. And as Kit and I slowly and methodically work through all of this canvas over the period of, about a week and a half, we're starting to see what lies ahead, not only in terms of damage, but how we're going to address it in the next episode.